There's something so impersonal about a game over screen. You've got so many factors in play in a video game that being shown a simple message seems kinda lazy and almost outdated. I know I've done something wrong. Tell me something I don't know. At this stage, I should probably get a second home on TV tropes. I only came here to look at Shaking the Rump, and now I haven't seen my family in 3 weeks. Usually you get a game over in a video game for running out of lives, or health, or just fucking up an objective. But whatever way it comes about, you're usually shown a clip of your character dying or exploding, followed by a sign that you fucked it up. Feels very video gamey, doesn't it? We can do more interesting. Triggering non-standard game over screens is a gentleman's pursuit, I feel. It's barely hidden in plain sight, but it still feels like you found a secret, or at the very least you've gone down a path that the game didn't lead you down. I guess it's just part of wanting to explore every tiny part of a game, and when you pull a game over out of thin air, it feels like a magic trick. You probably didn't die, but you definitely did a bad thing. You shall be punished for the misstep, but rewarded for creativity. It's the best kind of failure. There's an interesting juxtaposition between the role of a hero in a video game and the role you lead in real life, which probably isn't as heroic. It's exactly why you sit down and play these games. You want to experience something unusual, vastly different to what you're used to. But at the same time, it's a fucking video game. I've paid my money, I'm gonna spend my time doing whatever the hell I want. I know you've got a world that needs saving and everything, but I'm looking for cathartic fun, and if I can find that through smashing pots, then so be it. Nothing you can do about it. If you've heard of Night Trap, it's probably because of the controversy surrounding one scene in the game where a woman is kidnapped in the bathroom by the bad guys, leading to the authorities to believe this was a depiction of rape and that the game needed dealing with, eventually leading to the ESRB ratings. So it's important in a very certain way. At the time, it was believed that this sort of violence towards women was being encouraged by the game, but you can only ever come to that conclusion if you had never played Night Trap before. The goal is to protect these women from these gimpy bad guys, and any faint hint of the game encouraging you to do a crap job is put to rest by this guy berating you every time you do something wrong. But no, this game is offensive. The peak of how seriously this game takes your actions comes at the very beginning, where if you wait around for long enough without pressing start during the opening scene, Commander Sims? Yeah, that guy, he doesn't appreciate that.
You're wasting time. Get over there, now. Looks like you're not up for this mission. Breaking contact.
It reminds me a lot of Sonic jumping out of the level when you spend too long idle in Sonic games, but here, you've got a recorded message aimed directly at you, and that cuts deep. He's ended the game before it had even started. But didn't you hear? This game encourages sexual violence towards women and must be placed alongside Mortal Kombat as being a bad influence on my children. Video games are solely to blame for all of my shortcomings as a parent. Keeping a track of the events that take place in the Metal Gear Solid games is hard enough as it is. Even as someone who obsesses over the franchise and takes every opportunity to talk about it in my weekly video series, I find myself having to recap the relevance of small plot points in relation to the overall picture. It becomes even more complicated when they started making prequels and suddenly characters who played minor roles are given a larger share of the spotlight as the game tries to hold everything together. You have to suspend a bit of disbelief that this all ties together in the end, but not as much as if you could kill a few of these important characters. Thankfully, it's not something you need to worry about. I love a game that's aware enough to notice a time paradox. You would have thought that it'd happen more often with prequels, but if any series was going to draw attention to it, probably going to be Metal Gear. They're the kind of games that like answering very specific questions, so if you've ever wondered what the rest of the franchise would look like if Big Boss died in Snake Eater or the Phantom Pain, the answer is no. That would be complicated. Let's just say it's a time paradox. Ditto if you try and kill someone like Ocelot in these games. Shoot him after a boss fight or blow up his helicopter, you end up with the same timey-wimey inconsistencies, and don't do that. Hideo spent all night writing this, be nice. My favourite, setting aside throwing a grenade through Sokolov's window, has to be Kaz in the Phantom Pain. You're told before your rescue mission that you've got 3 days to rescue Kaz, which you accept as a notional time limit that isn't relevant since you'll bust him out in no time at all. Or, you could smoke 3 days worth of Phantom cigar, rock up to the scene a bit late and find Kaz dead from I think blood loss due to his severed limbs. Yeah, you're not allowed to get away with that. Guess you kept him waiting for too long, huh? The bizarre thing about all this time paradox crap is that the game focuses so much on the relevancy of the character's death for the rest of the franchise and completely ignores how important that character is to that specific game. You can kill Ocelot early in MGS3, but then you wouldn't have a boss fight with him later. Then again, you can also kill the End early if you don't want to fight him later in the game. I guess some continuity errors are easier to cover up than others. My affiliation with Nintendo from a young age meant that I never really experienced genuine choice in a game until I branched out a bit as I got older. I mean that on a specific level and not with larger aspects like genres or non-linearity. Often in Nintendo games, when you're given a choice of two answers in response to a question, they almost always end up sending you in the same direction. Amazes me now that I can play a game like Fallout and I can kill this guy? And you won't object? Oh, nice. South Park: The Stick of Truth is a parody of a lot of things in the same way that the TV show was a parody of conventional humor, and this tends to manifest itself in a number of moments that catch you completely off guard. It's a game you play with this in mind, but it still manages to put the fate of the world up the rear end of Mr. Slave in the form of a nuclear explosive. Clearly we need the hero to shrink down, climb into his butt, work his way up Mr. Slave's rectal passage, find some SWAT soldiers and perform some kind of tricky abortion on a robot. I mean, that's obvious. Or, while everyone is standing around looking for someone small enough to fit, you can just walk out of the room and let the bomb go off. Sounds really simple when you put it like that. Can't believe this option was never considered, but unsurprisingly, you're not far enough away from the explosion to avoid a game over and a quick trip through the credits. Can you really call someone a coward for not wanting to crawl up a man's ass to disarm a bomb that isn't even that easy to switch off? In real life, no. In South Park, probably. You need to learn how to read the terrain. A good way to convince the player that their goal is a righteous one is to demonstrate what's at stake. Of course, you can talk at length about how the bad guy is so evil, but actually showing him doing a bad thing is quite effective. You now know what you need to do and what happens if you fail. Don't fuck it up. I never pieced it together at the time, but this idea is explored more in the Zelda series than I remember. They've had their fair share of bad guys, most of them being Ganon, but these games are very good at letting you know what the price of failure is here. Loafing around for 7 years on Ocarina of Time sees Ganon ruin Hyrule Castle Town and fill it with Redeads. In Wind Waker, taking too long to reach Greatfish Island results in it being torn apart. In Twilight Princess, Zant shows up out of nowhere to void your progress and leave Midna near death. These are all strong acts of villainy, but I doubt that you need much convincing that these people meant business. On the other hand, the grinning moon that's getting bigger with every passing day? Yeah, it's probably nothing to worry about. Look how these chicks follow me around, isn't it adorable? Majora's Mask is played in absolute terms. Yes, you have the ability to manipulate time to suit the situation. Yes, you're blessed with unmatched social skills for someone who never talks, but if you let that timer run down, you will pay the consequences. As a kid, I was shit scared of this, so I never let it happen. But then one day I got curious, ran down time, and I was surprised how much detail the game puts into the act of showing you your failure. You get to watch roughly 40 seconds of Clocktown crumbling under the weight of the moon, which is just enough time to think that maybe playing the Song of Time once every hour or so isn't so much to ask for. Thinking about it, I think this is the only time where you can actively lose in a Zelda game. Not a brief moment of conflict with the bad guy, scorched earth, the world destroyed, and no hero to sort things out. At least you know the stakes now. I mentioned how games that give you an option of responses that ultimately lead down the same path have made up a large part of my gaming experience, and this trope has become a trend among certain franchises. With every Zelda game you play, you're thrown through this unnecessary decision, and every time I pick the option the game doesn't want me to pick that eventually leads back around to the same decision, all I can think is what kind of scenario would we have had if I could actually successfully say no? South Park doing this isn't surprising because it's fucking South Park, but Mario? Squeaky clean, wildly inoffensive Mario who just wants to keep as many people happy as possible? Dude's out of control! The Mario RPGs buck a lot of trends present in the main series like risque humor, extensive dialogue, stories that weave all over the place, and even some turn-based combat from time to time. It all sounds lovely, but my preference in this situation has always been towards a more kinetic style of gameplay, so platformers will usually win out in my books. But this was before I was told of a moment in Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door where the bad guy asks you at the end of the game if you'd like to be a servant, and it gives you an option of responses. When I heard that you could become her servant, leading to the outlining of an alternate scenario where Mario serves under the Shadow Queen for eternity, giving you and technically the world a game over, suddenly this kind of game sounds amazing. And this isn't a one-time occurrence either. It's a trick that the Paper Mario games have repeated at least 5 times across 2 games. There might be some in the original Paper Mario or the newer titles, but Thousand Year Door and especially Super Paper Mario are a glorious clusterfuck of not being the hero the game thinks you are. In Thousand Year Door, you can read a ghost diary the game repeatedly tells you to leave alone, with a ghost appearing out of nowhere to punish you for it. Super Paper Mario, though, is a gift to this world. Some important queen asks you to go find someone important? Nah, fuck it, I'd much rather be zapped by lightning and stay here for eternity. Bad guy wants to recruit me? You know how the last game went, I can be easily swayed by persuasive argument. Some old guy wants to give you some old relic called a pure heart? Fuck off, Mario only deals in stars and coins. What kind of game do you think this is? You think I need a helmet to breathe in space? Clearly you've never played Super Mario Galaxy. Why is everyone being so antagonistic today? I'll be in my trailer. This is RabbidLuigi, and I love how these options really try and push you in the right direction, but still give up a game over screen at the end of it. You have to refuse at least 3 times in a lot of these if you want to get what you want. In the case of suffocating in space, you have to change your answers to yes halfway through. They're the kind of scenarios that a lot of players will be too perturbed to try, but it just means it's all the more satisfying when you do go through with it. Makes you feel like a renegade. Have you got an idea that you'd like me to turn to a countdown? Let me know in a comment down below, and make sure you check out my Twitter, where I'll be turning the best submissions into a poll where you can then decide the best topic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that. In my time off, which has been any time that I've been put towards moving to Canada or shit posting on the internet, I've been trying to make little improvements on any aspect of this channel that I feel could be improved. At some point in the last week, I arrived at this end slate thing, the thing you're looking at right now, and you might know that YouTube's got a special feature for that now. It's a bit tricky to use, but it's really good for giving mobile users something to click on, and I have to migrate to that eventually. It will mean that I have to alter my Patreon rewards, but I need to update that anyway, so it's good timing. This might just be the last time I talk at the end of a video like this. Haven't always had interesting things to say, but by this point you'll listen to anything. You've put up with a lot of crap.